Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome again to the channel. Today we're gonna discuss another fascinating topic. How this French company is actually killing people in Niger. You know what I mean? So I never knew a lot about Niger until actually I read an article, which was out actually a year ago, talking about how this company is technically killing people. So we're gonna look about this country's economy, and we're gonna see how this company is involved within the economy, how they've been ripped off since the colonial era. So let's start from a few details just so we can be aware of this country itself and how it stand in a world economy, right? So I like to do my video as a conversation. So don't mind me when I'm reading or go on the internet trying to look for some actually credible news or credible story about this country, since I've never been in this country by myself. So if you're from there, make sure you go in a comment and let us know what is going on. And if you're new here again, go and subscribe and hit the notification bell, and also comment to help this video get to more people. Let's go. So this country population is very small population, about 25 million people in this country. And actually the index of this country is very sad. It's a very sad story. They're about 187 out of 188. That means that actually they're almost the poorest country in the world, right? So, according to the United Nations, they're 187 out of 188. And the income per day is about $5 and $5 a day, which means people over there, they survive about $5 a day. Right now, with this economy for today, $5 don't even buy gas in the United States. So the average age expectation. So I want you to pay attention on this number. The average expectation of life, it's 45 years old. 45 years old, if you come to any other country, 45 years old, you're technically still a young person. But in this country, 45 years old is that's actually the age you're expected to live. You know what I mean? It's very sad, right? So let's see the economic the economic metric of this country, right? So this country is the fourth globally. Even if it's almost the poorest country in the world, but it's still the fourth globally, the producer of uranium. And that they produce about 7.5% of the all output of the global uranium. Think about it for a minute. So this country, they are like almost the last country in the world, but they produce 7.5% of all global uranium output. And also the 80% of the country export is all uranium, and it's only contribute 5% of GDP. I want you to think about this, right? So we're gonna have to understand how this happens. So you have about 80% of export of uranium. You are the number 4 globally of producer for uranium. You produce about 7.5% of all global output, but only uranium contribute about 5% of your whole GDP. This is supposed to be at least 50 or 80% at least, you know what I mean? So who is the operator? Who is mining this uranium? The mine of this uranium is a French company called AREVA. AREVA is actually a public company. I mean, I'm not talking about in terms of like being public. Yeah, it's a public company. It's traded on a stock exchange, but at the same time, it's a government-owned company. So let's see now the GDP. The whole GDP of Niger is about it's about $13 billion, right? So the GDP of Niger as a country, they produce about $13 billion. $13 billion in the United States or even in Europe, some even startup companies do produce that type of money, right? That's not real money. That's a whole country should be producing. Also, if you factor the fact that this country is producing uranium on this magnitude, right? So let's now compare the Niger GDP to AREVA revenue. AREVA is the company which is mining the uranium in Niger. So the company sales or the company revenues is $15 billion. This was 2018. $15 billion was the company revenue, AREVA's revenue in 2018. And 2018, Niger GDP was only $13 billion. If you want to think how small this money is like, if you look like, for example, like Elon Musk, he was $260 billion and he's a person. And then this country is a whole country with 25 million people only produce $13 billion. You know what I'm saying? So you can understand how this is a very, very small money, So we're going to look into more detail. So how long did this company been producing uranium from this country? 4 decades. So 40 years, this company has been mining this uranium from this country, right? And they've been selling this uranium to to Europe. In matter of fact, actually, yeah, Niger uranium power Paris. You understand? So the whole Paris have electricity because of Niger uranium. But Niger, where they mine this uranium, people don't have electricity. Matter of fact, the whole country is only 10% who have electricity. You understand? So how long are we going to keep allowing countries like this come in Africa, come in countries in Africa, and then they rip us off? They come and they dig, they mine, they do whatever. All they're gonna come with is the paper money, which you can use, which they print every day. You know what I mean? And then they're gonna come mine your resources and then go become rich and they go make a lot of money, but they leave you in the dust. And this is all this channel is all about. This channel is all about awakening your self-conscious, awakening, you start thinking that stuff you see, it's not normal. It's not normal for a company to come from Europe, mine your natural resources, and also the mine the natural resources, and also you don't make no money, but they become rich. This was like colonial era economic model. So the European country will come to Africa and take all your resources, take back to their country, produce some product, and come back sell to you. You know what I mean? So are we going backward or are we going forward? If your country has a GDP of $13 billion, just think about it, and the company which is operating in that country has a revenue of $15 billion, you know what I mean? So you can see a huge difference a company compared to a country. We should never even compare a country to a company. Let's be honest. So let's go over again. So what is the benefit of this uranium to French country? If you're from France, you should actually, maybe be aware of where, your electricity is coming from. Also take action, in your own country. You know what I'm saying? Educate other people. Let them understand that all this electricity is actually killing people back where it's coming from. So right now, it's about 5% of our French electricity come from uranium. And 4 out of 5 light bulbs, every light bulbs you see in France, 4 out of 5 of them, they are powered by Niger uranium. So these people, they're enjoying electricity in France, keeping the, Eiffel Tower on every day. People go over there for trips. People go over there for tourists, enjoying the electricity, the lights, the city of love, you know what I mean? But the electricity that you're actually enjoying is killing people to the other side of the world. Understand? And this is not just like, the problem that, French people have to deal with. This is our problem. As a black person, you should never let people take advantage of you, which they've been doing for years. And all they do is just give you recognition that you exist. We need to start demanding more. You have to demand more from within yourself and from other people. You know what I mean? So let's keep moving. So you have 4 out of 5 light bulbs in France that are lighted by Niger uranium. One out of a quarter of the homes in France, which means a quarter of the home in France are lighted. A quarter of the home in France are lighted by Niger uranium, right? And then you have all these houses in France, have the lights, paying the light bills, utility bills to these AREVA companies. But guess what is happening? This company is killing people by leaving all this dust of the uranium where they mining, these mining places, in the sky. People, they start breathing in that. And after that, guess what's going to happen? Those dust goes in the drinking water. In the drinking water, people drink that water. And that's why the life expectation is 45 years old. You know what I mean? So someone has to live to 45 years old, and then you expect to die at that year. Let's be honest, man. 45 years old, most people in the Western country don't even have a kid. Most people in the Western country, they're still looking for careers. Most people in the Western country in the 45 years old, they're still considered young. But you in Niger, 45 years old, you expect to be dead. Come on, man. What we doing? I'm talking about, people in Niger. Like, this is the people who were, back in the day, and before the colonization, this is the people who were controlling, trans-Sahara trade. This is the people who were, doing trade with Egypt, Pharaoh, you know what I'm saying? This is the people who were controlling the whole trade in Africa back in the day. This is the people who were, close to Timbuktu Empire. This is the smartest people, This is the people who invented. This is the people who have the first close, understanding of astronomy. What happened to us, man? This is actual fact. If you go even in Mali right now, people in Mali, they still understand how to count the stars without using a computer. They know where the star is at any given time by just using old school technique, which was taught by them during their, by their generation after generation during the Timbuktu Empire with the Mansa Musa. This is the people who are very, very smart, Tuareg. You know what I mean? You learn them in the history. But why do we let these, colonial companies come in the country and then, exploit us, right? So you have this country, they're living the dust in the water, living the dust in the sky, and people breathing in, people drinking this water, people dying over this stuff, and then they have a pride to go in there, right? They have the pride to go to the United Nations and say, hey, the life expectancy in Niger is 45 years old. It's because they're poor and have no access to medical. But how are they going to afford medical when you are taking everything that you use to actually get the best medical, equipment, the best medical hospital in a country? You know what I mean? So let's look how this company, actually created their contract with the country. You know what I mean? So the contract with with the AREVA in Niger stayed back, during the colonial era. They've been in a business for 4 decades, which is about 40 years plus right now in Niger. You understand? That is almost to the colonial era. You know what I mean? And this is how they structured the contract. You can understand that back then, France had more power on Niger than Niger had power for itself. So that means the France had a leverage in terms of drafting the contract. So this contract was made on a fake promise that they would turn Niger into Paris. They will export this uranium and go sell to Europe and make so much money and come back in Niger and build the hospitals, roads, streets, create jobs. That was the promise. And that's why, back then people, they thought it made sense. But the contract has some very, very shady clauses. So you have this, what you call AREVA is here I'm going to tell you everything that AREVA is exempted from in that country. So the export duties, they don't have to pay any tax when they export the product. The entry tax, they don't have to pay any tax if they import let's say, machines, or cars or trucks, every equipment they're going to use to drill the oil, the uranium, right? And they don't have to pay any custom duties. They don't have to pay any VAT, which is, value added tax, right? So confidentiality, they have to keep everything strictly confidential, classified, so to make sure nobody knows what is going on, so they can actually still conducting this business in pure robbery, right? So any audit, if the Niger government decide today to do any audit on AREVA's business, if they decide to look through how they are, running their businesses, what they're doing day to day, there is a clause in the contract say that any finding from that audit have to remain strictly confidential, have to remain strictly classified, which means, any audit that comes from that, any result that's come from the audit, you cannot publish it. So what is the whole point of audit? You audit a company so you can find something which is going on and then put to the press and publish it. But their contracts say any audit you find, you cannot publish it. So basically, you're going to find the audit and then put in your office desk and then forget about it. You know what I mean? So how much of mugus or stupid people are you going to be to let someone come in your country and steal your most valuable resources and go sell it for billions of dollars, but you can't say anything about it? Number one, you have to understand the leverage. The leverage you have uranium. That's the leverage. And the uranium cannot be produced. You know what I'm saying? It has to be mined from somewhere. You understand? So if you tell the French government, like, hey, from now on you're not going to mine our uranium, they have no leverage. They have no option but to submit to your demand. But why we're gonna let people take stuff, but we're gonna actually beg them to come and take our stuff. You know what I mean? So let's say, how this contract is still drafted. There's what you call, protection from increase in loyalty. That means this company is protected from any increase in taxes which can happen after the contract. That means if a new government comes in and draft a new tax code, to tax the foreign corporation or whatever, this company is exempted from that. So that means they have to keep dealing with the colonial era, tax code. So let's say if the contract was drafted 40 years ago, and now in 2022, new government comes in and say, hey, we have to increase the taxes. this company basically they cannot obey that tax law. They have to keep working on 40 years ago tax code. Understand? So let's see another thing. So that means they have 20% cut on the corporate tax on any future investment. If they invest in anything, let's say they invest in a new equipment, they invest in a new way to produce the uranium, they invest in a new way to drill the uranium, that means they have to get 20% cut on the corporate tax. You understand? So, the company is number one in drilling uranium. The company number one is impoverishing the country, is killing people by polluting the air, polluting the water, polluting, the livestock. That means, the cows can't even have a good grass to eat because, all this uranium is kind of, changing everything, and then there's a drought, right? And also keep in mind, Niger lives in a desert, right? But at the same time, if this company even invests even $100, they have to get 20% cut from the corporate tax. Understand? So the other thing is, this is the most shadiest stuff actually, you will ever know. How this guy, they keep the loyalty tax, because the loyalty they have, the agreement they have with Niger is 15%. That means they only give Niger 15% of the profit to the country as the loyalty deal they have, right? So this is how they keep that price, that loyalty, money as low as possible. So AREVA did this, right? AREVA is a French company. So they went to Niger and create a subsidiary company. So they create AREVA Niger. And then they have AREVA France, and then they have AREVA Europe, or whatever they want to do, right? So you have AREVA Niger. Then AREVA Niger has a contract. The AREVA Niger runs the mining. You understand? So AREVA Niger runs the mining. So then AREVA Europa has a contract. AREVA from France has a contract with AREVA Niger to buy the uranium from the AREVA Niger on mining price. You understand? Let's say that the global price of uranium is, for example, $1,000 per pound, $1,000 per ton, for example, right? But the mining price is $100 per ton. So AREVA Niger has a contract with AREVA France to sell the uranium to them on $100 per ton. And then they will take this uranium and go to France and sell this to other countries, or a French citizen, for $1,000 per ton. You know what he did? That means that 15% loyalty tax, that 15% they have to give to the Niger government, is only going to be calculated based on a price that AREVA France bought from AREVA Niger. It's not going to be calculated based on a price that AREVA France is selling to Europe. You understand? Which means they're not going to pay actually the global market price. They're going to pay the makeup price. They're going to make up their own price in Niger, and then they're going to come and buy buy the uranium from Niger for whatever price they did, and then they're going to only pay 15% on that transaction in Niger, not the transaction in Europe. So that's how they keep the 15%, 15% loyalty tax as low as possible. You know what I mean? So this company, technically, literally, they're not trying to pay any money to you. That's why they set up AREVA Niger, so they can, make a transaction with AREVA France, and then they can only pay you on a transaction which happened in Niger, not a transaction which happened in France. Because if they will be selling this uranium in France directly, and then they pay Niger 15% of the transaction which happened in France, Niger will be getting a lot of money. And that's why, you have 80% of export of uranium, but they only contribute 5% on Niger GDP. You understand? So, in my conclusion, what I'm saying is, I feel like some old, leaders, people who be running those countries, they kind of disappoint young people a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot of smart people in Niger. Their history is very remarkable. I'm actually, I've been always impressed with those regions of the world, right? The history is very remarkable. So, I think, young people need to step in. Young people need to take stuff back. We need to actually start charging people. The way these things should be working was a Niger company should be mining the uranium and sell the uranium to the France, or say to Europe, or whatever they want to sell it, and then we can make that export profit. Not having a company playing game with you, mining the uranium in your country, and then they have another subsidiary come and buy from themselves, they're buying around from themselves and then go sell, and then they're only giving 15% loyalty tax on the transaction which happen in your country, which means you're not really exporting the uranium. They are exporting the uranium. You're selling the uranium in your country, and they're taking to another country. Understand? So that's my conclusion. It's a very sad story, but we can see what we can learn from this in terms of the same thing which is happening in Congo, something which is happening in South Africa. There's something which is happening, all over Africa, right? People that come in and taking your stuff and go make money with it and come back to you and sell you the finished product. I'm out.